So we're YouTube stars?
Exciting.
We're right now on YouTube, but nowhere else.
Eat your heart out, Akila.
Hey, Priyanka.
Hey.
So your last live stream, you made a pie.
Yes, I made a pie and learned how to roll up dough and fill it. It was great.
Was it a successful pie?
A lot more successful than my first attempt. My first attempt was garbage, so it was really great to learn. But this is also fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, pie making sounds a lot more fun, but
I hate small talk.
you're super good at it.
I hate it. I'm so bad at it. How was everyone's weekends? Who cares? Any big weekend plans? Who cares?
Panda looks enthralled by the conversation too. Oh.
Oh.
All right, should we kick this off?
Mm-hmm.
Are we on Twitter yet?
We're not on Twitter. We're just having some. 1 second.
Oh, no worries. More small talk. This was exciting.
You like your laptop, Priyanka?
It's pretty nice. I write the newsletter with it,
You do. What
which
a
you
day.
should sign up for.
To the 500 people watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the newsletter. Go to crooked.com and subscribe to What a Day.
It's a great newsletter.
It's the best newsletter.
A lot of days, things get busy here with like other work, and I don't read the news as much as I should, and I catch up every night with What a Day.
A lot of newsletters out there, they just aggregate their own
Garbage.
their own organizations, like top stories, and it's like, here are 8 things,
Politico
eat at the
reported.
trough of our news, and we don't do that.
But do check out the From the Crooked Media section.
I'm saying.
Yes.
But we curate, Ours is more like a coursed meal, not the trough. Second wave millennials.
YouTube people can hear it.
I think the world owes them a favor. Unbelievable. Hey, you want a trophy? Yeah, fine. Got it, again with that
You can have a hug.
generation, also with the touchiness. You never learn manners. Shake hands. Shake hands. Use the fork starting from the outside. Animals.
Spoken like a
are we
true
on?
Laurel.
Are we on?
Okay, cool. All right.
Unbelievable.
Should we, I'm ready.
I'm ready. We're doing it.
I'm ready. Wait, are we on?
I'm just waiting for a tweet to pop up telling me that we're on Twitter.
Yeah, me too.
All right, it'll be live from PSA. We're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
And we're live.
Hey, everybody.
What's
Hey,
happening?
guys.
Hey,
We're here.
Priyanka.
We're here.
Here with Priyanka. We're Tommy,
Pundit.
me.
Lucas
Lucas
somewhere.
hiding.
We're going to do something a little different today.
Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Well, everyone still asks you the questions. I'm just going to ask you the questions that they've already asked.
But there's a lot of news we didn't read today, so we're going to ask
Oh.
you questions about your questions.
Great. Oh, good.
So Priyanka's here to moderate our live stream. She's also the writer, along with Brian, of What a Day, the Crooked Media newsletter, which is, I have to say,
Best newsletter
best newsletter in the business.
by far.
You
Thanks,
know?
guys. I appreciate
No
that.
You're welcome.
question. Tweet the stream.
I already did.
Cool.
We're already in it.
All right,
Wow.
Let's kick it off.
Okay. All right. So we're kicking off with a pretty hard-hitting question.
Cool.
How does the rest of Crooked Media survive John Lovett when something like Yanny versus Laurel happens?
So there's these things called noise-canceling headphones that a lot of people are pretty big fans of. I don't know. It feels like the question wasn't for me, but at me. So Tommy, why don't you take
Yeah,
it?
I mean, so I was out of the office. I had a meeting in
you
Venice
weren't
yesterday,
even here
which
yesterday.
it's pretty heroic to go from West Hollywood to Venice during the middle of the day for a
Going
meeting.
under the 405.
But
for a
enough
meeting?
about me. Priyanka, you
Was it with Bill Gates?
you experienced this whole
Yeah,
day.
you missed this whole.
I got it via What a Day, and I heard Laurel, but Hannah heard Yanny or whatever, and it was
Okay. I feel like I have a weird perspective on it because I did hear both. I started hearing Yanny, then I heard Laurel. I'm only Laurel right now, but I hesitate to say that. Like, I feel like that's kind of unpopular opinion.
I heard Laurel. I heard Yanny when Lovett heard it one time.
One time.
On our Instagram story?
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere. I think it just came through the speakers in just the right way, and I heard Yanny. Yanny.
It's Yanny.
It's
Yanny
Yanny.
is.
It's Yanny, and I heard a Yanny. And then also, some people were playing around with the frequencies of it, and then I heard Yanny, and then I heard Yanny for a second in the regular one, and
Okay.
then it was gone, and then it was gone.
Fleeting.
Fleeting. Yanny was
Yeah,
fleeting.
it started off small. Then I think Lovett got a hold of it in the office, and it sort of became pandemonium.
Balloon.
There was, in every part of the office, there was like your side and then you went over to the intern side. It was just like running around with this like
Well-
speaker far away. It was like a whole thing.
Someone very quickly suggested it was a frequency issue, and so then I thought, well, if I if I run away from it, I can lower the frequency by kind of Doppler affecting the whole
Yeah.
thing. But I don't think I could run fast enough, so it still sounded like Laurel. Think we ran this to ground?
Yeah, we ran this one down.
Yeah.
Good question.
Okay. So we have one now about net neutrality. The Senate just passed resolution to reinstate Title II net neutrality rules. What does this fight look like in the House?
Doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good. It's great that it got out of the Senate, but I think it's hard to imagine a path of it getting out of the House.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been seeing also.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of reading on this today. Are you feeling as unfortunately pessimistic as we are?
About the House, yes. Senators seem to be really excited and happy that, this happened today with them. And they had some bipartisan support, some support from Republicans, too, who wanted to debate it and, wanted to repeal the rule or the change to the rules. But, yeah, all the outlook that I've been reading does not look so great for the House.
Yeah, you need
Bummer.
not just some. I mean, look, there's probably enough votes in the House. As this is true on a number of issues. But there's probably enough votes in the House to save net neutrality, but not enough Republican votes to convince the Republican leadership
To bring it up.
Right. Okay, well, also, we have a lot of big stories today.
A lot of
so-
big
Lot of
Yeah,
big
this is
stories
like a little
today.
preview of a newsletter.
That's why we got the large Diet Cokes.
No thanks to Garage.
No.
So, what in the document?
Sorry, can't get Diet Cokes. Sure, I'm an intern, but I'm too busy. too busy, honestly. You know what? I was an intern once, and someone said to me, "Get Diet Cokes." You know what I did? I said, "Sure." Not sorry. I got a lot on my plate right now. Unbelievable. He did. He really did have shit to do. It's fine.
what was the next question? We're done hazing our
boy.
phenomenal interns.
Let's see. So there's some documents released today.
Yeah.
What in the documents? What is in the document about the Trump Tower meeting, and how is Don Jr. not indicted yet?
So there were 2,500 pages of documents.
Lot
And
of
I would be lying if I pretended I had read close to all of them. But a headline out of this early is that essentially Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyers from the Trump Family Foundation, the Trump Family Organization, jumped in and got involved really early and was trying to coordinate everyone's story, which, is not the most innocent-y vibe thing.
You know what's a great thing about the truth? It coordinates itself.
Yeah, the truth coordinates. The other document I loved was the Mooch reaching out to Rob Goldstone, or I believe, who coordinated the whole meeting in Trump Tower with the Russian lawyer. Just in case they wanted to get together, just talk
Was
about
it
stuff.
Pick My Brains?
Yeah, I think you used the word envision incorrectly. There's a lot of stupidity today.
Oh, great.
They're all criminals. Next question.
All right. Okay, so the connections between the Trump Organization and ZTE, Terry Haynes wants to know if and how that violates the Emoluments Clause. How can they be getting away with something that directly benefits real Donald Trump?
Yeah. So basically, the story is Donald Trump. We have
Ooh.
Luca and Pundit.
What's
are in a
happening here?
struggle. Come here, girl. Come here.
Aww.
Come here. Oh, come on. So basically, the U.S. is in this, Trump-manufactured trade war. There's a company called ZTE. They manufacture phones. They've been violating It's trade policy sanctions because
Iran and North Korea sanctions.
Right, but also they are a company that we don't trust to make the phones without.
Yeah, I mean there's a review process that the government undergoes where you worry about critical infrastructure and technology. So there's a Chinese company called Huawei that's been cited as the Chinese government is connected to the company so they can put a back door into that technology that'll allow their spy networks to get into it.
So anyway, Donald Trump steps in and says, we have to do everything we can to save these ZTE jobs because these sanctions are coming down too hard on the Chinese middle class.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. So
On a Sunday, right?
yeah,
Yep.
and just so clearly something had, crossed into his field of vision somehow. Who knows? So he sends this out, and then lo and behold, we find out that Donald Trump has just within the day or before or after gotten a $500 million
Loan.
loan.
Yeah.
So does this violate the Emoluments Clause? Trump is violating the Emoluments Clause every single day. He's doing it. People also forget, by the way, the Emoluments Clause says foreign money, or also the states. So basically, the Emoluments Clause is being violated left and right.
It's in tatters.
It's in tatters. The Emoluments Clause is very, very sad. It's very much abused, almost as abused as the Interstate Commerce Clause. Two clauses that have just gotten the shit kicked out of them.
Some great clauses, though.
But anyway, so he is. It seems like there won't be very many consequences again because Republicans in Congress do not want there to be consequences. I find that, like, I've been thinking about this a lot, that basically it's so hard to understand Donald Trump's motivations because there can be political motivations for what he's doing. There can be personal corruption motivations. He could be blackmailed by the Russians. He could also have some kind of vendetta or personal relationship we don't understand. So basically, like, I've been trying to sort Donald Trump's motivations into 4 buckets, which are egotistical, political, ideological, or financial, basically the corrupt ones. And basically we don't know. So it's just sort of look at those 4 and say, all right, seems like there's some kind of politics going on because there is ongoing negotiations with China over our kind of trade policy with China. Seems like he also has a personal financial stake in this. Beyond that, we really don't know.
It's just one of those weird bank shot ones where it's a project that the Trump organization is working on in Indonesia that got a $500 million loan from an entity backed by the Chinese government. So it helps explain why he would send this weird ZTE tweet. It helps explain why he would coddle the president of Indonesia, who is a horrific human rights abuser and all-around awful authoritarian guy. So, I think your buckets are really good, and a lot of them, I think this is one of those moments where I imagine that the corruption is deeper and more brazen than we ever thought possible. Like, literal Michael Cohen, you got to kick back 50% of that $1.2 million fee you got to fake lobby me from Novartis or whatever. Like, everything feels possible, allegedly.
Yes.
All right, on to the next one. This one is from Amanda. She says, I feel like we get 10 new breaking stories a day about crimes connected to the Trump administration. Amanda, that is correct.
Wait, Priyanka, what percentage of those are at, like, 6 p.m. on Friday afternoon when you're trying to catch a flight or, like, maybe leave the office before 8?
A lot of, like, an outsized number of them are. But she wants you to give it to us straight. Do you think anything is going to come of any of this aside from me going crazy trying to document them all? And do you think we as a country have become numb to these revelations and that he'll get away with it all?
That's a great question. Things are already coming of these things. I think, don't be disheartened. Like, there is an ultimate consequence we want, which is for Donald Trump to no longer be president. We don't know what will lead to Donald Trump no longer being president. There are many, many positive steps, negative consequences for Donald Trump and his goons that can happen before that. They're already happening. Mm-hmm. We have what? I don't even know. It's more than a dozen indictments at this point. Can't keep track of all the indictments. You have multiple.
19 if you count the Russians.
If you count the Russians, you have multiple people pleading guilty or facing charges. You have ongoing Senate investigations that seem at least semi-legitimate. You have ongoing criminal investigations both in New York and because of Robert Mueller. You have a special counsel that has gotten incredible amounts of information and testimony of breaking news every day that's causing the White House to respond. Just today, we got a financial document disclosure from Donald Trump saying that he did, in fact, pay Stormy Daniels $130,000. Oops, I was lying for 6 months. So things are coming of this. We know a lot more. Every day we know more. We saw that Washington Post story, New York Times story that happened around the same time, one that dove into Michael Cohen's finances, one that dove into Donald Trump's finances. We are getting further and further into the story, and each of these revelations from the special counsel and each of these news stories kind of turn over one more puzzle piece, and we start to get a better picture of what we're looking at. So things are coming of it. It's not as fast or as consequential as we want it to be, but what is in this life,
But for real, maybe move up some of these deadlines to 2 p.m. Pacific.
Then I have to write about it the next day. I think it's nice that you get it, and it's all the day's news most of the time.
Oh, that's true.
All the day's news, most of the time.
What a day.
Sign up now, newsletters.crooked.com.
Newsletters.crooked.com.
Wait. I think it's crooked.com/newsletter.
Crooked.com/newsletters.
Yes, my bad.
Just go to crooked.com. Something will pop up. You may not even be able to close it, honestly, until you sign up. We're working on that, too. The website, it's a work in progress. We're a small company. We're a startup. We're doing the best we can. We don't have venture money, all right? We
barely have a bathroom. Leave us alone.
We get you most of the news from an office that has a working bathroom most of the time.
Look, a pipe exploded. It ruined the kitchen. and then one downstairs.
Yeah.
So now they're drilling down there.
A drill could start at any moment because
Any
they
moment.
are replacing all the downstairs because of the flooding that happened from upstairs. The bottom line is subscribe to What a Day.
Someone needs to pay the bong store that has been closed because of our pipe.
Will no one
exploding.
think of the head shop? Priyanka,
All right.
you're
It's
wasting
It's really
time.
fun having you here, Priyanka.
I like having Priyanka here.
It's so much more
Priyanka's
fun.
great.
Thanks.
What a day.
All right. Mark wants to know if you guys have anything to say about Mark Warner and Gina Haspel.
I'm a little bummed. In Mark Warner. I'm a little bummed at Democrats on the committee. I'm sure Gina Haspel will be good at being CIA director, knows how to lead the organization, has great experience. There's so many people you could choose to do that job. You don't need to pick someone who literally oversaw a black site. Torture is wrong. It's immoral. It's illegal. It's a stain on our history. We shouldn't be pulling back that legacy and having those individuals lead the CIA. It's just fucked up.
I don't think there's, like, if I were a senator, I don't think there's anything Gina Haspel could have said in those hearings that could have changed my mind. I would have listened, but I don't think there's anything that could have gotten me to vote yes. However, I do know something that certainly should have gotten people to vote no, which is she was asked the question, was the program immoral? Kamala Harris, I think, asked such a smart line of questioning. And just senators and members of Congress need to learn to ask tough questions instead of bloviating and issuing dumb melodramatic speeches.
Yeah, watch
no one gives
Kamala
a
Harris.
shit
She's
about your
good.
fucking speeches. I cannot stand it when you have an important
Speech
hearing
writer.
and you're given 7 minutes to ask questions and you spend 3 of them giving a speech. That's fine. Ask a question, get some news, think about it. There's lawyers everywhere. Sit around with a group of lawyers, come up with an interesting line of question, and make some news, not with the words you wrote before the hearing, but by getting something out of the person sitting in front of you. So Kamala Harris did a great job of doing that. And I think, it was a 1-2 punch, right? It's step 1. Would you approve of doing things that are immoral? And the answer is no. And step 2, was the torture program immoral? She refused to say so.
Yeah, she didn't really let up on the questioning, which I thought was great.
Really great.
Stick to it and make her answer.
Right. So I actually don't understand why Gina Haspel wouldn't answer that question correctly. She obviously knows it was immoral. Or maybe she doesn't, which is worse. I don't know what's worse. I'm not refusing to say it or actually believing it, but either way, I thought it was disqualifying. And you know who agrees with me? John fucking McCain. And I don't understand why more Democrats couldn't muster the same moral fortitude of John McCain, because if that's not someone who can give you the cover you need to make a tough vote, I don't know what is. And you people that have voted for him will get nothing for it.
There you
I
have
didn't realize
it.
how I was
Facts.
fired up about it.
Yeah, well, you should be.
The next one, this is for Tommy. About the alleged fallout with North Korea. What are the smartest next steps for the Trump administration?
Smartest
so you dig
next
a hole,
steps.
put up canned goods and water in it, and then have a little tap code. So if someone you know comes,
Duct tape.
tap, 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 tap,
Duct tape,
tap.
trash bags, the hefty ones. No, I mean, with the giant caveat that no one knows unless you're Kim Jong-un. The smart people I've talked to today think that it doesn't necessarily seem like they're blowing up the negotiations, pun intended. It seems like they know that Trump really, really wants a deal. He staked all his credibility. He's literally talking about himself getting the Nobel fucking Peace Prize, right? So he is more invested in this than they do. And he also has his team out there giving discordant interviews on Sunday shows on the same day about what they're asking for. So they're probably just softening him up. And they're probably putting these military exercises into the conversation for things that are on the table at the negotiations, if and when they happen. The smart folks I talk to think the negotiations will happen. It's just going to take maybe a little concession here or there to get us to the table again. So wait and see. But like with all these things, nothing is accomplished. Like talks in and of themselves are not an accomplishment. You talk to people to get something done. So until that's happened, he doesn't deserve our praise quite yet.
Got it. Hitting, like the newsletter said yesterday, hitting pause on Nobel.
Pause.
All right. And Carol wants you to talk about the cruel and repulsive policy of pulling children from parents seeking asylum in the U.S., from violence and possibly housing these kids on military bases. Do we have thoughts? That was a story I remember we were covering yesterday in the newsletter about the military bases, and have been seeing for a little while. John Kelly's comments last week. Not great. Not great.
Not great.
It's I feel like it's obviously repellent and morally wrong. And it speaks to the ideology from where this comes from, because Donald Trump moments ago said, a lot of these people were deporting their animals. And I think that there's an inherent belief that these are people taking advantage of the system. They're seeking asylum, but they don't deserve it. And they know that they can come, and they can come with their families. And so so we are putting the safety and lives of these kids beneath this concern that somehow we're being taken advantage of by asylum seekers, and trying to send a message to people who are coming here in the cases of violence, in the case of fear for their lives, that they won't be coddled, they won't be protected, they won't feel comfortable, they won't feel safe. And I'm saying coddled because that's the word that they would use. I obviously wouldn't use that word. And it's about sending a message to people that says that America is not welcome to you, you will not be treated well, you will be separated from your children, don't come. Don't take a chance. You don't deserve asylum. And even if you do, we will treat you like shit. Because they care more about keeping people out than actually doing what we say we will do, which is help people who are seeking asylum and following all the rules and doing it legally and following our process. So again, it's the conflation of illegal and legal immigration, that we're talking about people who are coming here the right way, as in by following the rules, and we're going to punish them too. And it is what they do over and over again. It's what they did with DACA. It's what they're doing now, and it is gross.
Yeah, it's just so needlessly cruel. It's really upsetting. It's like truly upsetting to see a government acting in such a callous way. But there was a period in 2014 where there was an enormous surge of illegal immigration at the border, and military facilities ended up being used to temporarily house kids. And it was a controversy at the time, and it should have been, because the optics of that and their safety and whether that's appropriate, those are important questions. This administration sends out their chief of staff to talk to NPR to say, whatever, the kids will be fine, they'll be thrown into foster care or whatever. Right? And it's
or whatever.
It's cruelty. It's exactly what Lovett said. It's like being cruel to children as a deterrent. And that's just, it's so hard to wrap your mind around how fucked up and evil that is when it,
Yeah. And also it's it also is part of the way Trump thinks about immigration is so narrow and so small and so much rooted in this, his only ideologically consistent belief, which is that we shouldn't have immigrants come to this country, we shouldn't have brown people come to this country, and we're being taken advantage of, we're a laughingstock, we're weak, we don't have borders. If you believe that we need to resolve the extra legal immigration system we've built, and I believe that, you look at this system and it's like, well, where should the pain go? Donald Trump thinks the pain should go to children, asylum seekers, and undocumented people who have whose only crime is participating in a system we built together. We built a giant extra legal system where employers don't get punished for hiring undocumented people. Consumers don't get punished for the lower prices they get because undocumented people clean kitchens and mow grass and pick vegetables and work in restaurants and work in hotels. Or the contractors who hire them don't get punished when they service other bigger companies who want to keep their hands clean but still want the cheaper labor. So to Donald Trump, this 30-year failure, all of the pain, all of it should be visited on the most vulnerable human beings in our society, the second-class citizens we've built and told to come here, or the people just trying to get here for safety or for some possibility of having food to eat or a place to sleep. And that is not just Donald Trump's failure. It is a collective failure of Democrats and Republicans for a very long time that opened the door for someone like Trump to be this cruel.
I have a question for Priyanka.
Okay.
Oh.
How much royal wedding content will be in What a Day? How will you get your fix given the time change? Are you one of those people that wakes up really early?
I didn't, and I don't know if I will. I also don't have cable, so.
You don't have cable?
No.
You're full on cord cut?
Yeah.
So, what is it about monarchy that you love, and what is it about America that you find so abhorrent? When did you decide you'd rather live under a king or a queen than someone you chose at the ballot box?
The crown is good, though.
You Benedict Arnold.
Jeez. I feel like
Benedict Arabindi.
Thanks, Lovett.
You're welcome. And I will tell you, there may be I don't even know which camera to look at. Elijah, which camera? That one or that one? Or that one? Further one?
That one?
The further one or the closer one? The one towards you or the one towards me?
The one towards me.
I will tell you something, live stream viewers.
Oh no.
There may be royal wedding content in this newsletter, but I will tell you there will be caveats and there will be criticism, and I will point out that we beat those fuckers in a war, and these are just the descendants of European tyrants with money that the people of Britain should take from them and then kick them out of those castles and turn them into homes for middle-class people. Get those entitled scions off of my newspaper, out of my newsletter, off of my Twitter feed. I don't give a shit. Little Prince George meeting the American president in a goddamn bathrobe. Enough. Basta.
Remember when that handsome hairy guy wore the Nazi costume?
Yeah, we all forget about that. And look, I face criticism from our London listeners when I call Harry the Don Jr. of Europe. And I understand why unfair that is. I understand that that's so unfair to Harry because Harry served his country. He was in the military.
He has a chin.
He has a chin. I'm in love with him. Okay, no. But anyway, you know what we call a royal wedding in America? We call it a fucking wedding because there's no such thing as royalty. It's made up gobbledygook that belongs in Narnia, not the Earth, in 2018. Thank you. End of speech.
I feel a little attacked.
Yeah. Take that royalty shit to fucking Westeros. This is the real world where people who wear crowns are ridiculous or children in pageants that should not exist. So, enough.
I just have one more. Priyanka, John Favreau asks, does Lovett see the irony in giving a long speech about giving long speeches?
Oh, hi, John. Thanks a lot for your comment. Thanks for being a fan.
He says no. Okay, sorry, Priyanka, you were saying.
I think he covered it.
Cool.
I think we're good. We'll try and get some stuff for you to rant about in the newsletter. It's been cut the last 2 days. I've tried to talk about it. Not even by you.
I don't mind. Again, I'm not trying to silence the issue. I'm trying to make sure there's room for both sides. I'll just always dissent. That's all. I dissent from the royal wedding. I see the royal wedding. Next. Elijah says next topic.
Priyanka, how do you decide what goes in what a day, and how do you have a work-life balance with a breaking newsletter?
Who's asking this?
Zoe Jordan Salisbury.
This is a real question. Oh,
Your
okay.
pen name?
That's so exciting. No. Let's
Your
see.
pen name. Nom de plume.
Well, I read a lot of other newsletters, but you guys shouldn't do that because I'm doing it for you.
Right.
So unsubscribe. You don't have to do that.
Curate
Get the
it.
best of the other newsletters. Get the best of Twitter. Get the best of what you guys are talking about.
We have our awful Slack channels that we need to organize better.
Oh, I kind of like them. They work for me.
Travis and I started a QAnon Slack, and none of you guys have noticed it yet.
Not interested in that.
Is it just you two?
It's out there. It's just us. Sorry, go ahead. Keep hearing it. So,
But yeah, it's a lot of back and forth sort of between us in our newsletter chit chat, Brian, our editor in DC, about what's going to go in. I usually send an outline of like what I'm thinking about, what are big stories. But yeah, it's just a lot of reading all day.
where do you find the fun stuff? Because you always have, like, I get all the goodness at the, like, all the stuff I'm supposed to read at the top.
Yeah,
and I
the
appreciate
vegetables.
it. The vegetables, but you always have like the funny. Like, how'd you find the kid who had a Twitter feed just about petting dogs? 'Cause that's the best thing I've ever seen.
That one was from Twitter. But I feel like there are a bunch of, I don't know. That's a really good question, actually. Just being super plugged into the internet at all times.
You just had game. Okay.
But yeah, I like putting stuff like that in the newsletter, just kind of so you get a little bit of, you know, you get your politics, you get your fix, but you also kind of get what other people are talking about, like the royal wedding, because people are talking about that because it's important.
It is not important. It is many things, but it's not important. We're not covering that anymore. Elijah told us to stop talking about the royal wedding. Maybe we should have a politics question, you know?
Yes,
Something for...
people are demanding to know Tommy's serious topic
Yeah.
about Nikki Haley walking out of Palestine.
So the question was about Nikki Haley walking out on the Palestinian representative giving a speech at the United Nations. So to be honest, I know she did it, and I saw that people were sort of applauding it or saying it was terrible. You know, it's a typically divisive issue on Twitter. I don't know what the Palestinian representative was saying in this instance. This is not the first time that a representative has walked out during a speech. Samantha Power, certainly has walked out when for example, I think when the Russians were just making up shit about what was happening in Syria, or, other U.S. ambassadors to the UN have walked out when, like, Israel was being treated in an anti-Semitic way or maligned in some way. I'm not sure why, given the conflict that's happening in Gaza right now between the Israelis and the Palestinians, why you wouldn't hear out the representative at the United Nations. Like, certainly they have, with 60 plus dead, thousands injured, there's value in hearing people talk about what's happening, or at least encouraging conversation as a means of preventing violence.
It's on a day when you have just given a big victory to their negotiating opponent. This is not a situation where Israel was voted down or Israel was the victim of, some anti-Semitic attack. I don't know what the Palestinians were saying, but this is a day where the Palestinians feel as though the United States took the side of Israel. It's an opportunity to listen, even if you don't like what they're saying, even if you disagree with it, even if you think it's unfair. It's an opportunity to show that you're still at the table at a time when they feel as though you're not.
Right. I mean, Haley said, she said, "Who among us would accept this type of activity on your border? No one would. No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has. In fact, the records of several countries here today suggest they would be much less restrained." I think even if you accept the premise that every single person killed was in Hamas, I do think there's probably ways to act with more restraint than killing that many people with live bullets. So I find it to be pretty nakedly political, not really doing the job to walk out on that speech.
Right, and it seemed like they responded in turn by, bringing their ambassador back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they pulled their ambassador out of the U.S. as a response to us moving the embassy.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, like, we are incredibly isolated on this issue internationally. For good faith reasons, for bad faith reasons, most of the world is not with Israel when it comes to Gaza. It would probably behoove us to try to bring people together and, like, be an honest broker versus solely side with one group or another.
Let's see. Do we have any more questions?
What do you got?
What do you guys got? Do you guys want to talk about Boston sports?
No.
John
Lovett
isn't
does.
here.
I could.
Oh, the California top 2 system. We'll go out on this. You guys can talk about
Good one.
Crooked 8 because we have a lot of exciting things happening here. Let's see. We want to know, how do we decide, well, this says when Dem to support, but I think it means which Dem to support in California 39th? And tell us a little bit more about the Crooked 8, what we're doing here.
I don't know specifically who the top, I don't know where the strategic vote is, where you should put your strategic vote if you're in the California 39th. Overall, just so for people listening, the issue is California has a top 2 primary system. That means that it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. The 2 candidates with the most votes at the end of the primary move on to the general. So you could end up with a situation where in some of these districts where we have a real chance of winning the seat, let's say you have 2 Republicans and then you have 8 Democrats. And let's say the 8 Democrats get 70% of the vote, but the 2 Republicans both get 15%. You could still end up with a situation where the 2 Republicans, even though together Republicans got far fewer votes than Democrats, go on to the general, and we are shut out because there were too many Democrats dividing up the votes, and none of them made it to the top 2. So there's something that candidates need to do, and then there's 2 things voters need to do. There's something that candidates need to do. Democratic candidates need to be very honest about their chances of being a person who merges from that primary. And in places where there are multiple Democrats, it's a tough situation and it's unfair. But certain Democrats need to drop out and make sure that we have the best chance of having a Democrat in every district. For voters, I think it's fair to look at it and say who's winning. We wouldn't normally say that. Normally we'd say pick the best person, pick who you like the most, doesn't matter. But in this case, you really do need to be strategic and make sure that you pick someone you believe who will be a good member of Congress, but also someone who has a good chance of making it out of the primary. Beyond that, the single most important thing Democrats can do in every single district in California is vote. Because yes, this top 2 system can screw us, but every vote helps, right? That no Democratic vote will hurt our chances of getting somebody out of that primary. It may not help if you didn't vote for the person for the top two people, but you can hurt. So we're trying to make sure that everybody knows that they're registered. So if you go to crooked.com/cricket8, that's our kind of landing page where you can donate and help defeat the 8 Republican districts that we're targeting. But it's also about making sure that if you're in California, you are registered by May 21st, and that you vote in the Democratic primary on June 5th.
And by the way, I realized I hadn't got my ballot in the mail yet, and I went online and I checked my registration, and it had my old apartment. So I literally live and breathe politics all day, every day, but things get fucked up, so it's worth checking right now. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Encourage them to go online, check, make sure you're registered. Vote by mail. It's way easier than going to the polls, but make sure you do it because we don't have that much time.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an important primary. So the most important thing that every Democrat in California can do is make sure they're registered and then vote in that primary on June 5th. The most important thing that anybody listening outside of California can do is donate to this swing left campaign that we're doing, the Crooked 8, because that'll make sure that the candidates coming out of these primaries have the resources they need to compete. And, in these districts where there's a chance we get shut out, it's a really tough situation. I think you got to look at the polling, look at all the information you can, and just pick the person you think that's most likely to emerge from this primary so that we have somebody on the ballot in every single race, because the worst thing that could happen is that the House, which we have a real chance of winning but is no guarantee, slips through our fingers because fucking Dana Rohrabacher doesn't have a challenger. Like, that'd be a real shame. So that's it. I wish I could be more specific, but it's a hard situation and every district is different. And I don't know. Go fight, win. What else? That's it.
Yeah.
We got it. Well, thanks, guys. That's
Thanks,
about all the
Priyanka.
questions
Thanks,
we
Priyanka.
had.
Feels like
this is fun.
This feels
This
like
was
a weekly thing we just established.
So,
Is it now?
If you have time.
oh, please. She's playing coy, but she's like, put me on camera. Every single day she comes in.
Right next to Lovett. So you can yell at me.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.